Those troubled kids. There were some good ones, but some of the good ones got bad influenced by the troubled kind. They thought the cool kids were awesome, and they wanted to be just involved in that. But this school was deteriorating from a God wonderful school to something more evil, to something that would represent the 7 deadly sins. And it was all Miss G and her partner in crime. We'll call him Mr. B, or Mr. BS. Well, Mr. S. And Miss G had a sister by the name of Mrs. B. Mrs. B, I trusted her. My mom trusted her. We trusted Miss G. And they betrayed us all. Even Mr. S. Okay. So, the last year of my high school days were going to be over. But on a good spark, I had a new teacher, and she was very understanding to my hypersensitivity to loud sounds. She was most kind, most generous, and we're going to call her Mrs. R. Now, Mrs. R did not like how R, irritating R, was being all irritating, mean, crazy, going out of control, always doing this, always doing that. And there was another student who was worse, and that was L. We're gonna call him L. Not L from Death Note, if that's what you're thinking. No. No. L was a blind kid, and I kind of had some sympathy for blind people. I don't know why, I just do. I really do. But I find that blind kids can be special. But this guy, well, I suddenly see his true colors. He was inappropriate, irritating, and I think besides R, not Mrs. R, the other R and L were attracted to me, but they were trying to provoke me, trying to do this, trying to do that. Oh man, I kept thinking to myself, oh, I know I'm so beautiful. And I am. My mom once told me that I was a natural beauty. I don't want to push you girls down, so relax, please, don't hate me. But in truth, for some reason, I guess I was born beautiful. And I don't want to sound like a snooty girl, but I actually was, and I get some stares a lot, so that was pretty normal for me. But the way some people would provoke or try to say they want to be my boyfriend or whatnot, I always had to decline because I wasn't ready for a relationship. But man, the school was getting worse. Lunchtime, it was pretty good on some days, but most days I couldn't even deal with it because it was so loud with those cool kids. I had to take my lunch and eat it out in the hallway right near the bathrooms. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Really? You're gonna be next to the bathrooms of the boys and girls room? Yes, I did. You know why? Because it was the most quietest place, and I was right outside from the bathrooms, and I actually ate my lunch there for the rest of the year. Even Mrs. G did not like it and wanted me to participate, but I had to point it out to her, saying, that place is so loud. It's not even gonna quiet down. She tried, but she left me alone. My mom didn't like how Mrs. G was pressuring my mom, making her job harder, and just judging her on her appearance, making my mom, Valerie, cry. It was the worst thing. Mrs. G was supposed to be a good friend, and Mr. S was manipulative, trying to be all happy and trying to be a good Christian and all, but deep down, he was actually the devil. He wasn't such a great guy after all. And he pretended to be so nice to me. But he, on the darker side, he did not want anything to do with me. He wanted to buy me gifts to make me happy. I mean, I still have the necklace and the arm bracelet around my ankle. Well, it's an anklet, as they call it, but I didn't want to keep it just because of him. I wanted to keep them because, well, I've always wanted to have an anklet. I wanted to be like Esmeralda from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She actually had one, and I always wanted to have one. I thought it was kind of cool. And also, I haven't worn a cross around my neck since my other one broke. I guess it was getting pretty rusty. Even my mom noticed. I never take off my necklaces, which I wear two only. My cross and my blue pendant. I even wore my anklets still. I never take these off. They were precious things to me, not because of people giving them to me, but also I just wanted to wear them and have a great sense of style. But I couldn't believe Mrs. B. I was so ashamed of her and her husband. They acted like they were good people. They betrayed us. My mom was supposed to go meet her, and they were supposed to go to a movie, but my mom was just too tired from work, and then she fell asleep. And Mrs. B left her a message that crushed their friendship. Mrs. B was nothing more than a backstabber and spreading rumors about Valerie. And Mrs. G actually bought into it. And Mrs. G actually judged my mom and other women of appearance, and being such a sexist towards men, even the male staff couldn't even stand her. But everyone thought she was such a goody-goody, but she wasn't. Not at all. And steps became worse. My older brother, Harry, did not like it. He didn't like how these kids were being mistreated. He didn't like how he, as a helper, didn't know how to deal with it. And the teachers for the special needs were so mean, so spiteful. I just couldn't believe it. And they were the ones that tried to force me to go back in there and participate. But I did not want any part of it. I had hypersensitivity to loud sounds, but they didn't care. I was so angry with the school. I finally could see their true colors. The lunchroom was so loud. But you know what? You want to know something? I actually discovered something. We were talking about it after we moved to Indiana and lived there for about 2.5 years. Well, guess what I found out? Turns out those cool kids were actually doing drugs. And Miss G and everyone else didn't have any idea about it. I was so shocked. Maybe some of them knew and they didn't even care. I was like, what? Is that why they were so loud? Why it was like bang, bang, this, that? I was like, oh man. I even heard some stories from my little brother on his part. How some people would sneak in drugs while they did their insulin or something, or their medication. I was so shocked. And I remember those words of that one kid that once telling me, it doesn't matter if it's a Christian school. It's a school. We can do whatever the heck we want. So, I couldn't believe it. Miss G was the worst friend towards my mom. But luckily, my mom quitted. And Miss G didn't even care if she was gone. And she was trying to be so manipulative. Even Mr. S was even more of a backstabber. And so was Miss B. I would never forget what they did to me, to my mom, to my older brother, Harry, to Jimmy, to our lives. Mrs. G, I want to say to you, you were the worst person ever. I know I did a lot of terrible things, but I want you to know, you were the worst person towards my mom ever. And I'm not going to forget you, but I'm going to forgive you. So you better watch your back, because one of these days, I hope you will find the forgiveness that I have for you. Maybe not now, but let's just say you and my dad and these people were the most messed up, manipulative people I have ever come across. Some of them were good, but the most part of some of the staff, not so much. So anyway, that's my story, you guys. Now listen, I'm not going to reveal any personal information or any personal questions you have. Sorry, I know I sound harsh, but this is my personal story. So I hope you guys remember it. And think twice about some Christian schools. Some Christian schools are good, but there's a dark side to them, with some troubled, messed up people underneath it all. So anyway, that's my story. Thank you so much for listening and watching. See you next time.